John chapter 19, verse 28. Jesus knew his mission was accomplished, and to fulfill the scripture, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." Having hung on the cross for a few hours, the agony experienced by Jesus' body was beginning to reach its climax. He's racked in pain. His lungs are beginning to collapse. He becomes dehydrated and he calls out, "I am thirsty." There's few words that could adequately describe what was happening to the physical body of the eternal Son of God. What we see here is a paradox, that the suffering and the thirst of Jesus is a contradiction in terms. He is the giver of life, the bringer of joy, the provider of peace. As God, his life was completely self-sufficient. And yet what we see is a scene of hurt and anguish and pain. How is it possible that this all-powerful, ever-giving, hope-inspiring God could be hanging there, stripped of everything, and crying out in thirst? He is the one who came to quench the spiritual thirst of people. All who would come to him would receive living water, and they would never thirst again. But now this thirst-quenching Christ is crying out, "Give me a drink." To the onlooker, this scene of suffering would have looked like a failure. They saw someone who had said, "I have come to heal, deliver and save," and yet now he was broken, bound and dying. But Jesus didn't see it like that. Jesus knew his mission was being accomplished through the suffering, for the death of Christ, which was about to happen, was the means through which God would free the whole world from the suffering and the bondage of sin. Jesus knew that his thirst, his dehydrated, pain-racked body was the means by which God was fulfilling his plan for humankind. And he knew that this suffering was just for a few moments more. This state was only temporary. He could see through the pain, knowing that there was a joy that was set before him. A joy of him being glorified with God, and a joy of knowing that there were billions of people who could enter into that glory because of his suffering. For that joy, for the future glory, Jesus refused to give up. He endured the cross. He pushed through the pain so he could continue in the plan of God. Romans 8:17 says this, "But if we are to share in his glory, we must also share in his suffering." Whilst we will almost certainly never experience and suffer the horrors of the cross, there is a sense in which we are called to share in this suffering of Jesus on the cross. When we're in physical and emotional and spiritual agony, we're called to follow the example of Christ. Yes, our lives may seem like painful failures to other people at times, and yet we push through that pain, and by doing so we accomplish something powerful. Like Jesus, keep pushing through. Focus your thoughts on the glory, which is just the other side of your suffering.